One eternity later.
Hi everyone, welcome to Ritmo Ron and welcome to our very first album review. My name is Jasmine Alahi and I'm super excited to be covering this lovely album from Bad Bunny, DeBÍ TiRAR MÁS FOTOs, and it's going to be quite a ride. So just a little bit, since this is our very first music review that we are doing, we are a music review and artist interviewing space where we dedicate our time to helping you guys find out the new sounds, what's kind of being put out there, and how we can all engage, you know, kind of as a community. I'm gonna keep this transparent with y'all. I don't want to keep this too formal because music, it's an expression, music is art, and music, it's a great thing to, you know, bond over, really. So how we do things here for Ritmo Ron and how we go about these music reviews is we have a little bit of a system. I want to give you guys, I guess, my criteria of how I marked and scored these. Per song, I have 7 different categories that I reviewed, which was first, instant impact or first listen score. Secondly, I have story and intent, energy and danceability, artist identity and delivery, uniqueness and replay value. So does it stand out in its genre, and is it replayable? Can I be sitting there with it over and 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 over again? That's out of 20. There is broader impact and resonance. And then lastly, for songs, I have evolving appeal and listener evolution. So this is going to be out of 110 points. Yeah, that's kind of how I've gone about marking these songs. And then with the album in general, I've marked it on 5 things. So concept and flow, there is song highlights and consistency, artist vision and innovation, audience connection and replay value as well. And lastly, we have evolving appeal and listener evolution. So yeah, that's going to be out of 100. And once I kind of get those 2 scores, we'll find an average and we'll be able to, you know, I guess enjoy the rest. For today's episode, we're getting into DeBÍ TiRAR MÁS FOTOs from Bad Bunny. So what do we know about DeBÍ TiRAR MÁS FOTOs? So this album is going to be the most like Puerto Rican sounding album, that's for sure. It released on January 5th, 2025 for the Three Kings Day, and he had a huge launch about this in Puerto Rico in the most Boricua kind of fashion. You know, we're 3 weeks out. Today is January 27th when I am finally recording this review, and I really sat down on this album to think about the ins and outs, try to understand what's being said from the artist, what the fans are saying, and even from me and what my interpretation is, and if that affects how I've listened to this in comparison to my initial reactions. It's a very exciting episode for me. Yeah, an hour and 2-minute run, 17 songs, and a whole lot of jams. This album itself, it ranges from beautiful plena beats, a lot of Afro-Caribbean sounds. You got some bomba in there, some salsa in there. Of course, you got some reggaeton. This is one of his only albums as well that does not have any trap songs. And that makes this whole experience so much more exciting, especially after his last album, Nadie Sabe Lo Que Va a Pasar Mañana. And with that being said, there's so many nuances to this album, and that makes it quite enjoyable. The best way that I can express this in terms of how Bad Bunny has encapsulated this island, its experience, and its whole expression, in a sense, it is going to be one of his most intentional, purposeful, and most well-rounded and fullest albums. And in comparison to his others. And I say this objectively. This was really hard because I'm not gonna lie, I tried to write this as an article and I thought, I don't think I can capture exactly what I want to express with this. Being objective about this album was it could happen, it was there, but also having to check myself and say, wow, I'm like way too excited about this project too. You know, I've been trying to write this for the last 5 days. I can't even get past the I've been trying to write this review and I can't get past the first song because it just goes so hard and I don't know, I can't break from reality. Benito, please. It was kind of like that. But yeah, you know, it's not really foreign and a lot of people talk about it. Bad Bunny as an ambassador for Puerto Rico is incredible. A lot of the works that he's done in the past has really shone lights on what Puerto Rico is. And songs like, say from Apple Music, they have this listed down with songs like Estamos Bien, El Apagón, Achopeyer, you know, PERFuMITO from Yo Hago Lo Que Me De La Gana, Una Velita during the elections that were going on down there. There's a lot of advocacy that he's always had in his music and a lot of pride in his sound. And that has always been something that he's hold very true in terms of himself as an artist. Even with the majority of his albums, you always at least have a song that represents something more than just the sound, and it really has a very direct message to what he has been trying to say over and over again, and shining that light onto the island itself. So what an exciting kind of follow-up, especially what this is his 8th album, including his collaborations and his kind of his extensions in terms of albums. But out of all of them, it's not overly surprising that he has come to this point to go forth and talk about a lot of more themes in depth and really provide a story, an experience to what Puerto Rico is and what it's all about. As a music enthusiast, a lover of reggaeton, lover of Spanish music in general, dance hall as well, Afro beats, and other tropical sounds, I have to admit, Bad Bunny is one of my favorite artists. For sure. Unintentionally, I guess, in a way. I became a huge fan of him very early on. Most likely it was when he dropped his first album, Por Siempre, his debut. But I unintentionally was listening to him between 2017, 2018, just once he got off SoundCloud in the late 2016s, early 2017s, onto the mainstream. Well, not fully yet, but like, yeah, no. Pero soy un gringa y me encanta, me gusta, me adoro Bad Bunny, you know? But that's kind of a history on how I am as a listener when it comes to this. So I'd like to pride myself and say I have a good understanding of what he is as an artist and what his sound is, and in terms of the range that he has experimented with in his time. But yeah, it's very different, especially since he first came to the scene as a trap artist, and he's fully evolved. So this is quite a beautiful beginning to how all of it is done. And even with the project itself, we'll go into how he was able to bring this concept to life and also keep it organic and true, but also in a very Benito style, you know, a very true and genuine expression of Bad Bunny himself. So let's get into it. Let's get into the music. You guys don't need any more background on who we are and what's going on, okay? So let's start off with the first song. We have NUeVAYol from Bad Bunny, the very first song. The opener starts off with 23-second interpolation of Un Verano en NUeVAYol by El Gran Combo de Puerto Rico y Andy Montañez, and the song is from 1975. So from this beautiful salsa beginning, this opener, it's very grand, it's very fun. You really get into it. You're kind of, I remember from my first reaction, I wrote it down here. My very first reaction was, okay, this is not where I expected it to start off, but I wasn't mad. Typically with Bad Bunny's openers, especially as of recently, they're very grand introductions. So this first start off being as fun as it was, especially to that extent, it wasn't overly dramatic, it was lively. It was a lively opener. Those first 23 seconds, it just gets you into that mood of, oh damn, okay, here we are. And then it smacks you with this beautiful dembo beat that just comes in. And for me, I love dembo. I love dembo. So for this 3-minute song, the rest of it is this dembo beat. It feels very reminiscent of Titi Me Preguntó, and from what I kind of interpreted this as was, especially with Bad Bunny, you know, you have his traps side, you have sides where he experiments lots, him as a reggaeton artist, and then have, you know, in a way, the personas. You have El Conejo Malo, you have Bad Bunny, you have Benito, and especially after Un Verano Sin Ti, this felt very much like, okay, we're gonna pick up where we left off, where you guys kind of were obsessing over the sound, where you guys were addicted to this beat. We're gonna start off there in New York, especially for him, if you follow his journey, and especially after his Most Wanted tour with Nadie Sabe Lo Que Va a Pasar Mañana. You come to this point where he is in New York, he's calling out some major names in there, even with the neighborhoods who are typically filled with higher Latin populations there, so like El Bronx, Washingtonites. You have call-outs to, I believe, some baseball players in there. It's mad patriotic for diasporas in a sense, and it really does this beautiful job of kind of giving that play, you know. With that being said, this is Bad Bunny's third dembo track, or kind of a mix that he's done with one of his songs, because when you look at Por Siempre y La Romana with El Alfa, and then you have Titi Me Preguntó in 2022, now you have NUeVAYol, and these 3 dembo heavy songs, you cannot be mad. It's so fun. This song, 126 beats per minute. It felt very similar and also fairly different all at the same time. I think when it came down to this breakdown, the song immediately grabbed my attention. It was a 10 out of 10. Oh my god, we're starting off here. Yeah, kicking it off, and we're starting off here. The craziness of it all. So you're there in New York, the party's pumping, it's hype, you're talking about the Latinos out there, the kind of the culture out there as well, and even with him being kind of in his Bad Bunny fashion, he kind of recognizes that in the States, how he's been, or I guess around the globe elsewhere, he's been recognized as El Rey del Pop, you know, the king of pop at this point. And that throws that reference back to that Forbes magazine call out in 2023 where they called him the king of pop, and in a way that controversy. But these call outs and with the story behind it, I won't say there's a full story to kind of set this tone about where we're going. It feels expected but unexpected at the same time. And typically you'd think, oh, he's gonna throw a banger near the end, but if we're starting off with the bangers in the beginning, what does this mean? You know, it gives you some intrigue in terms of its intentional run through. And to start it off there, the story, I won't say it feels unclear, but it feels like, okay, this is about people. This is about the people. But yeah, when he says como Bad Bunny va a ser rey del pop con reggaeton y dembow, it's really funny because it's true. How did a king of pop come to the pop scene in a sense, or into the public spaces, the public eye, to that extent, with reggaeton and dembow, especially after Verano Sin Ti? This felt very much like that, honoring, in a sense, and acknowledging that this is the sound he's been playing and using to get to where he is now, and kind of that recognition of those sounds in terms of how he's gone forward with that. Decent start off. It was something I both expected and didn't expect. I knew it was gonna be a hit in some way, theatrical in a sense. This won't be as cinematic in comparison to, say, El Último Tour del Mundo, when he had Mundo es Mío in the beginning, or with say Nadie Sabe for the last one. There's a variety of these long intros and these long kind of portions that really set the tone. This definitely did something a little bit more different from what he typically does in his album layouts. And now, evolving appeal and listener evolution. I've been talking to so many friends about this, and everyone has told me, I heard this song, and the moment I heard this song, I said, Jasmine likes this song. They were not wrong. NUeVAYol, it's up there. It's one of my favorites, I have to admit. So yeah, in total, I gave that a 96 out of 110. Great song, lots of fun. Can't be mad with a lot of fun, that's for sure. So, on to the next. Okay, so the next song we have is Voy a llevarte pa Puerto Rico. When I first heard this song, I will admit, this song is on the lower end for me. It's not because I think the song is garbage, and I want people to understand that, because if I thought a song was garbage, you'd know. But I can admit that this song, when I first heard it, especially after following up from NUeVAYol, the change in energy and everything, it was fine. It was okay. Like, I wasn't upset about it. And especially with how we started off, I was expecting, okay, we're gonna get into something different right off the bat. I was wrong. It's okay. But this song has to be probably the most similar to Bad Bunny sounds throughout his discography. And I don't want to say I didn't find it as exciting. Trust me, when I got to try this out at the club last time, I still went off. I cannot sit there and say, oh, this song is boring. No, it's not boring at all. It's a very fun song regardless. Even with the references for Gazando Boy by Angelique Cris, or La Barria de Wisin y Yandel, and Me Quiere Besar from Alexis y Fido. Those songs that are referenced in this, it feels good. It feels good to have those call-outs, but it just didn't strike me originally. It just felt like, I know I haven't heard this song before, but I feel like I've heard this song before, and it felt very Bad Bunny-esque, and I don't have an issue with that, but it felt like, I feel like you've created this track, and I feel like I've heard it, and it felt very similar. So maybe it was because I expected the sound, that it didn't strike me originally. That's why, maybe, but other than that, I'm not going to fully complain about it. I'm not, because it's still a good song. To the story, so you go from being in New York and then kind of get into this, like,
yo, ma, let me take you back to PR. You know, let me take you back to Puerto Rico and all of it. Let me show you hot and all of it.
You know, the story of it, in terms of the album, yeah, it's there. We were in New York, now we going back. That's cool. When it comes to the song itself, it was a little bit like trying to like edge someone on, being like, let's go, I'll show you how it is. And I mean, not bad. Yeah, it was just not bad. That's you know, that's where even for myself, I thought I was a little bit surprised. I'm like, oh, I'm surprised that I marked this as low as I did. I think the intention is there. I think there is more intentional songs than this one. And would I be mad if the song was a solo, or was on another project, or was something else? Yeah, I mean, I still like it in the album. It's still a great song. But in comparison to the rest, when we get to it, it wasn't a strong start for me, honestly. The perreo is perreoing. I say it in the most gringo way ever. But yeah, it's fun, it's upbeat, it's still pretty chill. Once again, I didn't think this was a song that really showcased Bad Bunny's growth. I think if anything, it kind of just said like, yeah, this is my sound, this is how I can deliver a song, you know, and voila, this is for you. But I don't think this really showcased what Bad Bunny can do. That's one thing where looking at the progression of this album, I kept thinking to myself, this song, I wouldn't say, oh, you want to listen to what Bad Bunny can do. I wouldn't pull up this song on the album and say, that's what he could do. We know he could do that. So I wouldn't say this really reflected his overall talent, in the sense that I would want to show that to someone off first go. Or if someone were to be an argument, this would not be the song I'd choose. I'd be like, if you want a good like perreo song from Bad Bunny, yeah, throw this guy on. But if someone wanted me to prove a point, that wouldn't be the song. Now for broader impact and resonance, when it comes to cultural significance or impact, I really thought about this, because initially I thought it doesn't really seem like it has much to say. But then again, especially with this album being directed towards that idea of, yeah, these are Puerto Rican sounds that you're going to be hearing, even with how they style their reggaeton, their perreo, how they style the dance hall kind of beats, the plena and all of it, even with the salsa. There's all these elements that they make it very at home, in a sense. And, you know, after the last 10 years of Bad Bunny's career, I kind of realized, you know what? He has ingrained his sound into Puerto Rico as well, and with how people are being inspired. So I don't think this isn't a song that represents that doesn't represent the Puerto Rican sound. That's what I'm trying to say. This song definitely does, especially as this still does have cultural relevancy, especially since he is kind of one of those new school pioneers to the genre, and I don't think that takes away from that. And kind of taking that into consideration, it did change my understanding of what this song really showcases. But yeah, it improved over time, I will admit that. although I gave it a 6 in the beginning, I marked this at an 8 by the end because it grew on me. It's a flirtatious song, and once again with the it's a great song. It's still great, but overall not his strongest. I did put this at an 80 out of 110. It's still a good song, just not one of his best on this album for sure. So the next song that we have is BAILE INoLVIDABLE. So this is a 6-minute song, and it starts off with this huge build-up towards this epic salsa that comes in afterwards. So according to Apple Music and in their descriptions of it, they write a bold salsa statement. BAILE INoLVIDABLE plays apparent homage to some seminal Fania releases by Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe, with traces of instrumental interplay of Juanito Alimania and an irresistible coda reminiscent to that of Periódico de Ayer. So with that being said, this song, it's familiar for maybe other people, and even for myself, kind of listening off the bat, I was so curious to what it was going to. The moment that salsa hit, woo, I got chills because that wasn't something I expected. I know he's done merengue in the past with Después de la Playa, but to have Bad Bunny kind of be that salsero. According to what I was looking at, there was a school, I believe there were kids between the ages of 16 and 20 who got to help create the instrumental for this, and God, how fun. So there's a clear narrative here, but yeah, with the narrative of what the story is about, it's clear and has you moving along to the drums and how it hits, and this elongated drive of anticipation is almost it grabs your attention almost immediately, because where was this? Honestly speaking, I would have thought this would have been a great introduction to the album in comparison, but at the same time, I think when you're looking at the story that's being told with this album, it makes sense to just, drop that in your lap right there. Unless you don't know how to dance salsa, I don't want to hear it. I don't. Maybe that elongated beginning, you might be standing around for a little bit of an awkward moment, or unless you've learned all the words, you might be singing your heart out. But yeah, this is also one of those songs where you just wanna that's for sure. When it comes to his artist identity and delivery, this was so left field from what you typically expect from this man. And there are artists who've been doing this kind of like salsero thing. You've had Mike Towers do it with La Vida Es Una or not La Vida Es Una, but in his second, third, last album. I'll insert it somewhere. And then also with Raul Alejandro's interpolation of Tu Con Él. That salsa, it's so exciting, but this has to be one of the better done songs for sure. And especially, although there is some reminiscence to other songs and other shout outs in a way, this is not what you expect from an artist like Bad Bunny, but he does it so naturally and it doesn't feel out of place. Me and my brother, we were talking about this, where some artists say if they go into the countryside, they still have their vocals, but it just doesn't seem to mesh. It feels very ingenuine. This feels like a very genuine and fun expression to Bad Bunny exploring these sides, these sounds, and you could see him getting involved, So I'm talking about this unforgettable dance, It's so... It just feels so good. It's such a feel-good song, truly. When it comes to what he is trying to achieve with this album, to throw that into the mix within the first 3-4 tracks, it's jarring, it's surprising, but it's like, yes, this is what we're getting back to. And in the romance of this album, it feels wholesome in a sense. So yeah, it's replayable, and the intent of the album, it just matches exactly what we were promised. And when it comes to evolving appeal, yeah, I started off as a 7 because I was uncertain, but now being more familiar with it, I don't think this album would be complete without this song. That's for sure. For BAILE INoLVIDABLE, I've marked it at a 99 out of 107. Next, we have PERFuMITO NUeVO with RaiNao, his first feature that he has on here, and holy man, okay, wow. Where's my notes? Tell me why. When I wrote about this, I wrote it as if I was writing love letters. For those who didn't read my review for top 15 albums of 2024, y'all don't even know how I was when he revealed that track list and I saw RaiNao's name on it, I said, no way. What in the heck is going on? Cause it's like two worlds collide, but it makes sense because they're all in the same world. And RaiNao, she is this artist who's been around for a little bit now, but she's kind of this up and coming artist, especially with her last album. And she is excellent. The first moment I heard that little intro, like, I just gotta, like, you don't want to get copyrighted. But those first few seconds, it was a 10 out of 10 for me. It was a 10 out of 10 for me right off the bat, because I said, ooh, yes! Anyways, outside of my excitement for this album, obviously, and this song was great. It was, it's a great song, but thinking about it objectively, this song, it's this reggaeton song, of course. You have Tiny on this as well, too. In a way, this is what I expected when Bad Bunny was collaborating with Rosalía when he did Noche de Anoche. And I have no words to describe this song. So this song, it's sexy, it's provocative, what I expect from a RaiNao song. Absolutely, and especially from Bad Bunny, it's like two great worlds that just blend so beautifully vocally. How these guys sound sonically, you have this almost expansive and like retracting kind of spatial vibe to this new reggaeton kind of flow. And the song is bad influences. Yeah, you never listen to the song and say, I'm on my single prowl, you know? Let me try that new perfume. But anyways, yeah, with the intent of the song, especially when you're kind of going through, especially in contrast to BAILE INoLVIDABLE, this is kind of new, expected, but also so much more different. And I think it is because of those like RaiNao styled instrumental around it. Tiny really did a great job capturing both of their essences and throwing it into this beautiful blend, this beautiful blend. Yeah, just chef's kiss. My heart and my soul cannot express the exact words, except for anytime you get the DeBÍ. Wow, that voice crack. Obviously, not a singer for a reason, but anytime that moment comes out, just dime cuando voy a probar tu perfumito nuevo. Que flow, que temazo, you know? Like, what a theme, what a track, what a banger for sure. Once again, this isn't anything overly new from the artist, but this is new in terms of who he's collaborating with, and even for his performance there, I'm not gonna say it lacks. It doesn't lack. It doesn't lack. It's not anything too different from what he has, and I wouldn't say this reflects his growth, but I think in a way, maybe in terms of how him and his team have allowed a little bit more collaboration in terms of sounds with certain artists. I mean, he never does a bad collab. He never does a bad collab. But, except for maybe I know now. That's no tea, no shade. But, yeah, this is more like a 16 out of 20. I wouldn't overhype this to be like, yeah, this is something I expect out of Bad Bunny in terms of quality, in terms of how he's gonna perform. This is the standard to me. This is the standard to me. I love this song. I love this song so much. Yes. Next. Raw. Next. Anyways. It's great. It's on replay. I can attest this. It's still on replay. It goes into my brain every now and then, you know, anytime I put on my perfume, anytime I see someone I'm just looking like a little too fine. But that's not the conversation here. The song is great. RaiNao is great. Bad Bunny is great. This... I don't know if you can see that. I don't know. Can you see that? Can you see that? Can you? Focus on the arm. Focus on my hairy arm. I'm having goosebumps thinking about it all the time because it's a great song. As I said, I like, say with the Rosalia and Bad Bunny collab, I expected this. When I first heard that song, I expected this. When I saw this track name, when he released that back in December, I said, you got RaiNao? And I went to listen to it right now. And right away, beautiful. Anyways, you guys can hear me geeking about this a little bit too much. Lastly, we have broader impact and resonance in terms of cultural significance. I don't want to say this is anything overly culturally significant. I think this is more relevant to the story that's kind of being played at hand, but also having an artist like RaiNao on there. When you look at kind of the feature list that he does have on this album, it's not any like huge artist names. You do have some really popular artists from Puerto Rico and those who are upcoming, and he always does this ahead of time. Like if you look at some of his other albums and some of the features he had there, he had people like he had Duki and LLeVARTE as well. Then he had Bring On to Out of the Mundo. You have to break throwbacks and all these different names. Marias, Rao, Maseo, Jaco, Chencho, all of them on TV. And then like Nico or Guadel, Nucini, all these artists on Sabe. But these artists, I think maybe in terms of their names, they are probably some of the more recent, newer artists on the scene. So I won't say on the sense of, you know, cultural significance or anything, this is anything too extensive, but I think this does recognize the young talent that is coming up, especially. So we're just gonna go back to the other things that I've said. I like this song. I like this song very, very much. I put this at a 99 out of 100%. I think this could have been like a strong 100, but I had to be objective and I didn't want to change my marks just because I loved it so much. We were on to number 5, which was WELTiTA from Bad Bunny and Chuwi. So this 5-member indie group being a feature for this 5th track on the album. First impression of it, I mean, I have to admit, I love a good indie track. The song itself, it reminded me a bit of the Maria's like Otro Atardecer, or kind of like Yo No Soy Celoso as well from Un Verano Sin Ti back in 2022. So that kind of reminiscent approach to the song was really refreshing. It was really energetic in a way to experience, so I marked it as an 8 out of 10. It's one of those songs that you could totally vibe to and, you know, enjoy in the overall. In that second marking, when it comes to story and intent, when you look at the grand feature of everything, this little stroll, VeLDÁ, that they're describing here, it's enjoyable, it's wholesome, it is thoroughly very exciting to experience it in this calm way. Even had a point in that mid-range, although it's an indie track, you have that little house moment in there. This song as well, it's fairly high up on my list, as it's one of those songs that you truly can just put on and enjoy in your day-to-day. It's not anything overwhelming, but it is it's a piece for sure. Now, once again, this song does feel reminiscent of tracks on Un Verano Sin Ti, which is completely okay. As you can kind of tell, there are going to be moments in this album where he could have totally made these songs for other albums, other projects, and even if he did want to kind of bring back everything that he's learned and put them into an album like DeBÍ TiRAR MÁS FOTOS, there's room to do it. There's room and there's the experience to do it. So for his delivery and the terms of growth, I think that this has to be one of those songs that really shows that, yeah, Bad Bunny still can do it. It's not anything too far off one of his other projects, but it is still there to enjoy and round out his sound and his discography. Additionally, when it comes to the broader impact and resonance, especially when it comes to cultural significance, this song, this little stroll, it's, I mean, for me as an islander, it is one of those things where you can enjoy a stroll, enjoy some time with your person, and enjoy those moments. But I think when it comes to elements in there, as mentioned in some interviews that Bad Bunny has done, when it comes to Loren from Chuwi, when she's singing in that second verse where she says, "Y en el pozo nos dimos la mano y gritamos Jacinto." That tidbit where he was also expressing that, yeah, I didn't realize why she was saying it, but it comes from a myth from Isabela in Puerto Rico. Those kind of little moments, it really showcases the kind of room for new things, new myths, new cultural resonance in a sense. But yeah, this song, it does a really good job in making sure that it stays on track of what we are to expect, not only in the story but in the experience, and especially with Chuwi being a group that isn't unpopular, that's for sure. Before this track, I believe they were around 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify. Now further down, I think they've jumped to 6 million. So they weren't unknown or anything, but they were fairly like many indie artists that aren't on top 40s. They were still doing fairly well. They're still doing fairly well, and I think having artists, once again, like RaiNao, Chuwi, and even some of the others that we'll mention, it's all purposeful. It's all purposeful for why they're there, and I think that they really allow room for this track to be dynamic and also relaxing. And I think VeLDÍTA is definitely one of those songs that I will forever play, and I do see it has some longevity to it as well. So with that being said, I would mark this as a 9 out of 10 when it comes to its evolution. I maybe, you know, a little bit higher now, but no, I'll leave it as a 9 out of 10, that's for sure. So rounding that score out to a 99 out of 110. When it comes to VeLDÁ, number 6, featuring Omar, Courtz, and DeBÍ, when I was listening to or watching the short film that Bad Bunny had released prior to this album release, I still remember that scene where the car is going by, and you have those big introduction, like bass drums kind of, and that good old perreo sound, you know, like kind of a break between the last few where it's very spatial and also a little bit more chiller, like the minimalism that you kind of do experience with it. VeLDÁ is she a dirty gal, that's for sure. Off the bat, it was hot. It was hot. VeLDÁ, you know, like, see if it's real, you know, let's make it real. I will always, I mean, even seeing the memes and the TikToks that come out of it, the BOKeTE, those, and, you know, even hearing that DeBÍ underwater, it's great having these two artists on this track. When it comes to that story and intent, especially as we're progressing once again through, it's getting dirty, it's getting down with it, it's sexy, but it's also very relatable in the sense of, yeah, you know, like in the first few lines here, me diste follow, y te follow back, me diste like, yo te dio do para atrás, and, you know, it's kind of like slowly getting closer. It's that flirtation and all of it. And she hot. I can't hate on it. And when it comes to that storyline, that original storyline that kind of goes through, she's sexy, and, you know, it's kind of like this dynamic of something cute, something hot, something cute, something hot. And I rock with it. There's a narrative in there, but when it comes to the energy, danceability as well, or for that mark. Yes, so very danceable, very enjoyable, and it does evoke something, a little something out of people, you know? Now, when it comes to the artist's identity and delivery, one thing I find very interesting, but I did mark this lower because Bad Bunny does not have as great of a presence on this track in comparison to his other tracks, that's for sure. And this is kind of similar to when Zafaera came out, where you have like Ningo Flow and you have Yaoli Randy on these tracks for majority of the song, and then you have Bad Bunny come in afterwards. But this is similarly that case where Omar, Courtz, and DeBÍ, especially DeBÍ, he's the one who kind of dominates this song, and especially for this this reggaeton track as well. It is exciting, it is fun, and it kind of gives room for these new artists to enjoy and kind of share that spotlight in a sense. And you can't be mad at that. You can't be mad at when artists are that willing within that range. When it comes to the broader impact, once again, even at the end when you have that little excerpt from Wisin, where Wisin saying like, you know, La Liga Múltipla Latino, Bad Bunny, DeBÍ, Omar, Courtz, quienes son los que comandan una nueva generación, you know, tú sabes los ídolos tuyos. This kind of passing the mic for the next generation, it really does have that impact in a way. Especially within the background of what this album does kind of cover in terms of this cultural celebration, where you have these icons who also thoroughly acknowledge it as well. So yeah, I've marked that as a 12 out of 15. And when it comes to the overall appeal, say it maintained its excitement. I haven't gotten sick of it yet. I don't know if I will, cause you cannot go wrong with those drums, and especially with Omar Courtz in there. Oof. Like, I still remember getting to see Omar Courtz in Fuego Fuego in Montreal, and if this song was there, especially with how Omar Courtz has blown up, especially with Que Vas a Hacer, I think this is still a great song for sure. So overall, when it comes to VeLDÁ, also we're marking it at a 90 out of 110. We have CLúB. So CLúB was the first song that he dropped, especially after his album, and without any features for him as a single in terms of release since the Nadie Sabe album. And it's definitely changed over time. When I first heard the song, I was a little skeptical. My very first listen to it, I was skeptical because I understood the bridge between, like, now looking back at it, I was trying to understand where this bridge of where he's taking his old sound, where he's kind of transitioning people to another phase, and what is to kind of come forward. But that house sound that especially a lot of artists are playing with, especially in the Latin genre, you just had Setch's Tranqui Todo Pasa, and that has a lot of house beats. And even with Rao was really ahead of the game when he said for Playa Saturno and Saturno, where he had these house and summer beats and bangers out there. 2022 was kind of that cusp of like, okay, well, this is what's kind of coming ahead. And for Bad Bunny to do that again with this, it kind of feels like when he released Where She Goes, where it was a little like, okay, so we're doing this. And in my original reaction, I didn't hate it. I didn't like it on its own. That's one thing I'll admit. I think I originally marked it at like a 5 or a 6 because I was expecting something a little more. I love that end part when the plena comes in, but especially with that CLúB now, you can catch me singing at the top of my lungs. You know, because like at the club, I'm not thinking about my ex. Tranqui, we ain't doing that. What kind of behavior? But with that being said, when it comes to the storyline and everything, this jarring kind of moment where everything's fine and everything's fun and everything's banging and bumping, especially in the progression, and then you get hit with this, what's my ex up to? I haven't seen him in a while. I miss him. It's so abrupt, and especially with the song itself. You know, you had these reggaeton songs, you had these indie songs, you had the salsa in the beginning. We're into this, what is this? The 7th place of the album. And you get this jarring hit of, what's my ex doing? And it really shifts the direction, and it's so separate from the album, but I actually enjoy this way more in the album's progression and its intended order than I did as a single. Maybe it was my skepticism that ruined it in the beginning, but I'll definitely say it was one of those moments where I couldn't help but say, you know what, I get it, and I think over time it grew on me. I still think it's a lot of fun. I've heard a lot of the remixes, and I do think it evokes some emotion, and at a moment, it does make you want to sing your heart out, especially at that part. I don't know who hurt you. I don't know who hurt me. But, you know, we go forth and we move on. So when it comes to the artist's identity and delivery, it is different. It is different. It is kind of that same impact when he releases something a little different and new within each of his albums, especially when it comes to title tracks. So when Where She Goes came out, and then you had Un Preview, the fact that not what you expect from the artist. He has his own way of going about it. And then also inserting that plena at the end there, it's different. It's different. It's not what you always hear. It makes sense that he would try to dabble with it. But I don't think this always highlights the best part of an artist's delivery. But that being said, even with some growth and with some thought, it's still a banger, and he does a really good job, and you could see that he is confident enough as an artist to do these things, regardless of what the reception is, and I respect that greatly. When it comes to the uniqueness and replay value, now, especially with this album, I do have a greater appreciation for the song because I know and I understand what the context is at this time. You know, it kind of does make me think of like the Sad Bunny days where, you know, all these moments of heartbreak. And there are so many songs in many of his albums that suggest that. But this one, it is kind of that reminiscent feeling of like, ooh, the heartbeat breaking for sure. When it comes to the evolving appeal, now for sure, I do have it at a 8 out of 10 rather than a 6, 7 out of 10. I do like this song. I can't say I screamed the chorus out at the top of my lungs. Once again, not because it's relatable, but because, yeah, how are you not screaming it out? Like this be that song. I'd be staring at my friends and being like, what are they doing? I haven't seen them in a while. Oh my god. Será que ella me superó y le va bien, you know? But yeah, there's so many hints within it too. I think what I find really interesting, and a lot of people, they always bring it up, and maybe it just feels reminiscent and similar, but when he says 2020, la última vez que yo fui feliz, y 2022, la última vez que yo te vi. La vida no me cumplió nada de lo que le pedí. But yeah, overall, I have to say this song, it is on the lower end of my list still regardless, an 87 out of 110. So when I first heard KETU Te CRÉ, this song, I believe it is produced by one and only Tiny and La Paciencia and Mag. La Paciencia with a lot of his works on this album as well. I know we give Tiny a lot of credits, but La Paciencia, anytime he works with Bad Bunny, it's a hit after hit after hit after hit. Now, KETU Te CRÉ, a reggaeton song that has this beautiful intro that kind of reminds me of like an ice cream truck or like one of those lullaby boxes, the music boxes. That's what it is. Lullaby box. Damn. It is one of those things where I was sitting there. I won't say I was skeptical at first. I was intrigued. I was very intrigued. It sounded familiar in a very dreamy way, and there was something about it in terms of the album that at this point I don't know, it kind of sparked at that moment when I first listened to it, being like, there's something special about this album, and especially at this point of it being the 9th song, or 8th song, I was thinking to myself, like, do I think this is good? There has been many times where I've been sitting around and I just hear that chorus of where he's like, you know, all I'm gonna say is, in terms, well, let's jump to relatability real quick, you know? If there's anything that feels relatable in that 6th spot, I just hope that my exes don't think of me when they think of the song, because at the same time, it's a very, I don't know, there's something about this song. There's something about the song where it feels relatable to me. But yeah, kind of going back with story and intent, when you come to after CLúB and everything, this kind of like, well, go ahead kind of thing, like, whatever the fuck you think, does follow the story, the theme. Even when you're kind of looking at the story here, it is a little bit kind of all over the place, but I could tell with the tone of it, as much as it is like a party song and everything, there is a melancholy to it. Like, ooh. I don't know why, maybe this is just because I find it relatable. I kind of sit there and I think, it's okay. When it comes to energy, danceability, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It is so much fun. It's a lot of fun, and even with that little kind of music box kind of element in there, it's kind of magical in a sense, and it feels right. It feels right, for sure. When it comes to artistry and delivery, I do think this is one of the more different reggaeton sounds that he's accomplished at this time. It's a little bit softer, but yeah, there's something different to how they accumulated all these sounds, whether that was in production or even with Bad Bunny's execution of this. I think this is one of those songs that you just can't help but to like admire in its minimalism. At this point of the album, my scores just kept getting higher, and I will admit, I didn't know if it was just because I was having so much fun with it, or because this journey that they were taking me on, it just felt so right. It felt so right. I give you my score for number 6. But when it comes to that overall growth, it's grown to a 9 out of 10, and this puts it at a 95 out of 110 for me. Now, we're moving on, and we're going to probably, I believe, my second favorite song. This song makes me a mess. Number 9, we have BOKeTE, and BOKeTE meaning pothole. This metaphor of BOKeTE is brilliant. This song itself reminds me of Tres from El Último Tour del Mundo, and that was my favorite song on that album too. I love it when Bad Bunny does a minimalistic kind of vocal performance, because although he is known for his trap styling and even with his reggaeton style and all of it, and with those deep vocals, I don't know why I admire so much for him to put this higher octave kind of performance, like se ve a mi frente yo viéndonos los corazones, la joya cayendo, preguntas sin contestaciones. Mi sentimiento cambia como estación. My first impression, I was a little confused. I remember sitting there first time, and I don't know if I wrote any notes. No, I did. I said, euphoric AF. So yeah, that was beautiful. The story and the intent of it, especially kind of this parallel at this point. This is kind of where these last 2-3 songs, where the story separates in terms of the album. Because with this album at this point, it's this love story where he takes someone back home, and although things are lovely in the beginning, things fail at the end, and there is more of an appreciation towards his island and his people. But then on the separate end, where it's like the celebration of people and celebration of cultures, and once again, there's that forefront of a love story in the foreground. It's very direct, but it's the experience of Puerto Rico, of his family, of his people, of his life, of what it is like there, what they're struggling with, whether the focus is there, even the attitudes in it, that background, even in these other ways of presenting it. It's so beautifully put, and that separation that kind of splits this experience and takes you to this moment of appreciating. And even with a lot of these songs, like BOKeTE being like, I avoid you like a pothole in PR. This could be directed at anyone as much as it could be love, or it could be, once again, if you've watched any of the interviews or have followed this in terms of just the narrative of what it is like in Puerto Rico at the time and kind of what they're facing as well. I think this is that very intentional cut between those stories, and it's brilliant. So at that moment, comes to story and intent, I think is one of the most thoughtful songs on here. And even with the chorus, you know, ya ni quiero compartir, tú eres linda pero te gusta mentir. There's just something beautiful about that in the most haunting way. And yeah, with that being said, when it comes to the energy and the emotion, I remember sitting there, and I continuously do this now with the song, where I'll sit there and I'll just let the chills take over. It completely sucks you out of your experience in the most beautiful way, and I adore the song. I adore the song. It knows how to capture you. It almost puts you into an empty room and lets you listen to it. Yeah, I can't help but adore the song. When it comes to the artist's identity and uniqueness, Still very unique. He doesn't do these kind of sonic performances often. Once again, Tres was the last time that he did something like this. And there was this expansive aspect to that song. This one, it feels very intimate. It's cold, but it's sad, but there's something about it that just lingers with you. It's a very hauntingly beautiful song. And I don't want to say you could feel the grudge, but you could feel that frustration in a sense, in a beautiful, beautiful way. And even when you kind of get to that point where that breakdown comes in, before he hits that second verse. God, every time it hits, it feels like listening to an old record in a way. There's been so many moments where I feel like this song, it just scratches an itch. When it comes to uniqueness and replay value, yeah, I'd be replaying it. I think it's a very unique song and its whole expression, and I have nothing but high praise for it. And when it comes down to my overall love of the song, how the song has evolved over time, a 10 out of 10. Delicious, scrumdiddlyumptious. Tan rico. I love it. It's 103 out of 110. So now we're moving into the last 8 songs here. So we have Close Friends for my English speakers. When I first heard Close Friend, I don't want to say I didn't enjoy it as much, because that's not entirely true. I did enjoy it. I just kind of, in my first listen, didn't realize that it passed by me. It was one of the first songs that I was so taken back from the last song that this one just rode past me without any thought. But that was my initial reaction. Even in my notes when I first listened to it, I said, yeah, not mad, it's nice and chill. You know, a reggaeton song. Didn't bother me too much. But when I was kind of looking at the story and the intent, you know, the story behind it being like, I've been looking at your stories, you saw me on your close friends, you know, I've seen you with no clothes on, and it's still kind of in a way, I don't want to say spicy, but there is this lingering and this longing for that person. And in that story, right, you've just had this breakup and all of it, and they're avoiding it, but then there's this reminiscence kind of going on, and me paso toqueando pa ver qué hace, and it's almost like this obsession, and it's kind of the story about like how it's hard to move on. So now when it comes to energy and danceability, yeah, it's danceable. There's energy to it. I think for a reggaeton song, this one being created by Meg, Tiny, La Paciencia, and many more, it is one of those songs that's thoroughly enjoyable. So I don't necessarily think this is one of those songs that really separates the artist from his other works. I do think it is a little bit more of a moodier kind of delivery, for sure, which is very familiar to Bad Bunny's former drops. Yeah, it's not too different from what I've experienced in the past, and it is kind of that sad Bunny that I do enjoy listening to. Now, when it comes down to the uniqueness and replay value, Close Friends wasn't necessarily one of those songs that I was putting on the most, but when it showed up, I didn't hate it. I liked it, I enjoyed it, and I think that it still did good job nonetheless. But I don't necessarily think this is one of those songs that's a huge standout, but that doesn't mean I hate it. I don't think this is a song that isn't good. I think it is a good song, regardless. If you were to drop this today, if he was a new artist in comparison to others, this is still a solid release. And then overall, I've begun to grow to enjoy this song more and more, so I've marked that at 9 out of 10, so scoring that at an 85 out of 110. Now we move on to one of my other favorites. I promise, I love perreo, I love reggaeton, I do. I just don't think that these are the standouts to this album. And even for Bad Bunny, this is not the focus of the album solely, right? So when you get Turista, it's a bolero, and this song, llora guitarra, llora, cry. I still remember when I first listened to it. At this point, there were some songs I just didn't write much, and then Turista came on, and I was like, wow, this is incredibly beautiful. This is incredibly pretty, and it immediately stole a place in my heart. I'm going to just say it like this. 10 out of 10. 110 out of 110. This song had it 100% on my scorecard here. It's such an authentic and such a significant song to not only the story, the cultural significance of what it's mentioning, the sounds, how different this is from any of Bad Bunny's other songs when it comes down to just the emotion that it evokes. You know, what does he say? The very first few lines, he says it himself in there. En mi vida fuiste turista, tú solo viste lo mejor de mí. And then yeah, like una foto bonita, un atardecer hermoso, un bailadita, tu candenita de oro. Estuvimos tan cerquita, mirando no los ojos. Dime si vesta la pena de mi corazón roto. Que lleva así mucho tiempo. Lleva así muchos años. Anyways, I don't know what else I can say about this song outside of it being 100%. This song is just tremendous. It's so beautiful. I am entranced by it consistently. On a subjective end, it's incredible. On an objective end, it is incredibly beautiful, and I have no complaints. Tens across the board. My favorite song. Has to be my favorite song. Now we're moving on. We're getting into CAFé CON RON. And oh! Especially after being so sad, you know, especially with TURiSTA, like, you came into my life and you're a tourist, and now you get into this, like, brotherhood kind of storytelling with this, this plena, and it is theatrical, it's cinematic, it's fun, it's everything. It truly is one of those songs that's everything. When I first heard it, I was like, damn, I was very impressed by it. And this features Los Planeros de la Cresta. And ooh, these guys, they originally, when they, I believe when they first released the song, their monthly listeners were fairly limited in comparison to any of the other artists. And to have these guys on here too, and this exchange between all the singers and Bad Bunny himself, it is tremendously done. When it comes to the story, I think the storytelling in the song itself is beautifully done. And then when it comes to the progression of the album, you're getting into this like getting out of a breakup kind of vibe, and getting out of the sadness. And it's that hype of like, me and my boys, we are doing something, we are out here. And there's something so great about it. At this point, I'm just gonna, everything else scored 100% at that point too. This got 109 out of 110 for me. The song has grown on me greatly when it comes to the energy. God, once again, it just drags you out of whatever. And I think this is that intent when it comes to the story, where you are being pulled out of your darkness in a sense, and your sorrows, and it is that feeling of like your friends, your community is getting you out there. Great, it's great. I have no complaints. The identity of the artist, this is really him pushing his boundaries here. En el monte o se rompe. It's just so energetic. It's so energetic, even when it kind of slows down and all of it, and even with the instrumentals, it just, it's a great song. It's a great song, and I think this is kind of where this album just pushes upwards from here on. And you cannot be mad. You cannot be mad at the beauty and the brilliance of what the song has to offer. Next, we have PIToRRO De COCO. Now, PIToRRO De COCO coming out at Christmas. When I first heard this song, I was like, ooh, what do we have to say about this? What do we have to say about this, you know? I was getting a little bit more of an essence of like, okay, this is what we're going for. And it reminded me of that Cantante de Navidad song in El Último Tour del Mundo a little bit. It is still that Hibara, that's what they say it's called. And it was sorrowful, it was melancholic, it was relatable. So at first I had this as a 7 out of 10, but as the story and the intention of it, you know, you're getting around Christmas time, you're getting around New Year's, you know, it's this thing of, oh, you didn't call, you didn't text me, you know, I'm celebrating alone, I'm with my boys, I'm with my guys, my grandfather gave me, you know, a bottle of PIToRRO De COCO, you know, he said this is for me to have fun, not for me to cry over some hoe at like after 12 on New Year's. I think there's an element of that story where, once again, you know, you're bringing back and you're returning to this love story, and you're surrounded by your community at the end of the day, and they just, although you are going through your stuff, they didn't have you here to cry. And I think that's a really beautiful way to put it, because it feels incredibly relatable. Because for myself, I know for myself as an islander, that's exactly what you guys do. You didn't come to this party to sit here and sit with that face. No, you came here to experience and to have fun and to forget about that and move on and be around the people you love. The danceability, definitely, it's not a song to dance, but the emotion it evokes, let me tell you, once the English stopped Englishing and the Spanish started Spanishing in the back of my head, and I started understanding what the song meant, I'm happy that I didn't listen to this and understand this around New Year specifically. I would have been a mess. Just saying. When it comes to the artist's identity, this was definitely much more different. It's different, and in the scope of this whole album, it is giving some more range. It's still accomplishing what Bad Bunny does best when he's Sad Bunny, but I think this is one of his more interesting releases for sure. And I think even that mark could be higher. When these marks are really high too. Like, if I started off with an average album, I think you could see, like, I do still really enjoy this album a lot. When it comes to the broader resonance and the cultural impacts, as mentioned before, there's a lot to say about kind of like cultural community in a way, or like the people you're surrounded by. And even that tidbit of like, yeah, PIToRRO De COCO, you know, llorando y bebiendo PIToRRO De COCO, and just kind of going back to that. And it is in that experience of how, and especially even with the song itself being that Hibara, you're sitting there thinking, yeah, this is new. This is new. I have to put that at a 15 out of 15. And overall, I do enjoy the song way more than I did when it first released. And especially in this album, I praise it highly. I put this at a 9 out of 10. We're moving into our last couple songs here, and wow, we're gonna go with Lo Que Le Pasó a Hawaii. When I first heard this song, I wasn't 100% sure what I was expecting. I thought this was a really interesting way to go about it. In a sense, you know, it's much slower, direct in terms of what the message is, right? We've kind of moved away from this love story, and once again, Bad Bunny is a song on every album that has some way of advocating for something. In Por Siempre, it was RLNDT. I always forget how to pronounce that. I gringa, so I do apologize. Even in Yo Hago Lo Que Me De La Gana, when he put Yo Perreo Sola, he had advocacy with that in terms of, you know, kind of women rights at the same time, you know. When it comes to El Último Toro del Mundo, you have Yo Visto Así. That one was a little bit more like that punk rock kind of vibe, but there was a direct message of like kind of individuality. El Apagón in Verano Sin Ti. And then when you have Nadie Sabe, I think like Achopear is probably like the closest thing, but there wasn't as much in comparison. But this song is so direct, probably the one of the more direct songs that he's had in a long time, and expresses that experience in terms of what Puerto Rico is going through as, you know, being under a commonwealth and being gentrified and colonized over and over and over and over again. And it is in that reference of like, you know, don't let them do what they did to Hawaii. I don't want to see that, you know. It's a very patriotic song, and I think that part of it, its purpose is highly ranked. So I would put that at a 20 out of 20. When it comes to the energy and the emotion that it evokes, it absolutely evokes a lot of emotion for me too. I might not be Puerto Rican, but I know when it comes to, say, islands, especially, you know, even in my own thoughts of how you see islands as you go back. For me, whenever the last time I went home and seeing kind of how beaches are being more restricted, how you have more foreigners who go on those lands, who build up their walls, they block their views, they purposely only want access for those things themselves, and they strip it away from people. And these things kind of being discussed in this album, you know, where they say, quieren quitarme el río, también la playa, quieren al barrio mío, que abuelita se vaya, no suelte la bandera, ni olvide el lolai, que no quiero que hagan contigo lo que le pasó a Hawaii. It's so impactful in the sense of the people who get it. I think that's fair to say. Even with some of my my Caribbean friends, when we talked about it, once again, we sat there and we realized, like, we feel these things. We feel these things as islanders elsewhere too, as tourism and as expats move forward. And I think that's a very political conversation we won't get into too much because this is a review. Yeah, there's a part of it that just really showcases that this is a problem, and it's in your face. It's so in your face about it. And I think that is beautiful because these things have to be said. Additionally, when it comes to the artist's identity and delivery, he did a beautiful job. It's very simple in how he goes about it. It's not a aggressive song. It's a very solemn song. And it's one that kind of feels like there's grieving within it. And I think that's probably one of the biggest assets to this album. Additionally, when it comes to broader resonance, once again, like, it's 100% and everything else. I did mark this originally as a 6 out of 10 without knowing the context, but now knowing and understanding the context more and more, and even listening to more and more, it's a 9 out of 10, and I don't think this album could be the same album without it. Now we're into our last 3. So we have Ayo in 15th place. Now this is a complete shift. I think we've completely abandoned the storyline, and we've gone into the reminiscence of what Puerto Rico is, and you get this insane beats. And oh my god. Play the clips.
This song did not have to go so fucking hard. This is a crime. I literally just woke up.
Por eso
For those who know me, you know I love a perreo intenso. This is like old school perreo intenso. And oh my god, I think, do I have it here? This is all I wrote. If you can't read that, because if it's fuzzy, it says, I'm not gonna lie, this was the one moment I disrupted my whole album listening experience by listening to the song maybe around 5 times before I said, Jasmine, we need to move on from this song. So 10 out of 10, that was my first reaction. When it comes to the story and the intent, we've abandoned it. So I put it at an 11 out of 20. This story, it's not there, but when it comes to the experience and the cultural significance, yeah, it's there. This is so old school in its sound and in what like reggaeton has been in the past, and it's so raw, even with kind of that second part. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. So yeah, maybe there's no story that like aligns with it. It is so good. So yeah, energy and danceability, 100%, 200 if I could. That song evokes something in me that Safaera used to, you know, any Yaweli Randy song has ever done for me, you know, any Alexis y Fido kind of song. This was so old school in the sense of how it was, you know, this was like reminding me of Nicky Jam kind of stuff back in the day, that old school Daddy Yankee, and even with some of your bigger icons, but this felt like the stuff that you were handing out in the streets when you're underground. This was that underground shit, and God, I could eat it up for days. Artist's identity and delivery. I think as a reggaeton artist, I think this is the song out of all his reggaeton songs on this album that said, I know what I'm doing, and I know I can still make it feel reminiscent and old, and I could pay homage to these things in a beautiful way while still making it my own. And I think this is like the most confident reggaeton song that he's delivered, in my personal opinion. When it comes to uniqueness and replayability, there are so many songs that can sound like this, but it sounds like no other perreo song, but it sounds like a perreo song that you know, and I can't hate that. I can't hate that. I think it is still 100% like, although I said what I said, there are other songs that you could find like this, you know, even Safaera has so many reminiscent portions to this, but this is that early like 1990s vibes, and I think that's what makes it such a beautiful piece. And I think it's just so fun. When it comes to the broader impact and resonance, yeah, this is that throwback to that reggaeton culture and everything, you know, kind of being in the streets, you know, the caseros and all of it. That's not it, but yeah, anyways, this song got 100 out of 110 for me. I think it's great. I know it doesn't really go with the storyline. I love it. I love it. I love it. I haven't had, like, outside of like Yaweli Randy or like Baby Rata or Niengo Flow, or even like, you know, for like a good perreo that has been revealed in this kind of way, like Bad Bunny knows how to get at least one of these super, like, I've been missing this kind of stuff right there, and it was beautifully done. 10s across the board, but also like -10 because no story. Anyways, now we're moving on to one of his top songs, which is DeBÍ TiRAR MÁS FOTOS, or DtMF. Now this song, especially coming off from the cool down of what was of AO, and when I first listened to the song, yeah, it was an 8 out of 10. I was enchanted by it. There was something so charming when I first listened to it, and I can help but feel swallowed in. Once again, between my second to fifth story and intent, this idea of gratitude, taking these memories with you, being more appreciative, it's all said within this song. And I think it's really beautiful where it's even in the chorus there, right? You know, he hopes that his loved ones don't leave, and if they're around, that they can help him out when he's drunk. And I think it's one of those really wholesome expressions. You know, it's been a long time, especially when it comes to a reggaeton kind of album where you have, well, not a reggaeton album, because this isn't that isn't solely this. From a newer artist, or an artist like Bad Bunny in this generation, it's been a while to hear something, especially from a male artist, that has this much kind of like wholesomeness, that isn't forced or isn't with any other kind of influence in the background there. And I think that's what makes this song incredibly beautiful and so much more heartfelt, and I can understand why people love it. When you look at the trends even, I thought that if this is transcending other places where I should have taken more photos, even for me, I think about, yeah, there's so many memories that I should be making, and I do believe it does act as a reminder in such a unforced way for people to just appreciate the smaller things, and I can't help but appreciate the song. When it comes to the broader impact and resonance, I think the song, especially being a reflection of what this album entails and in its totality, it just does such a great job. It does such a beautiful and great job, and I think there is an element of it where, you know, even with that Lena going in and even the outro, it feels, it's chilling. It's just a very chilling experience, and I put it at a 15 out of 15 as well. It's this whole song, it's 108 out of 110. I don't think I have any complaints with it. There's a greater appreciation for it, and I guess from an aspect of like personal, you know, subjective thoughts, this is one of those things where you can only sit there and say like, I feel the love that was meant for this album. Now moving into the last song, we have La Mudanza. Now you have this big introduction where Bad Bunny is explaining his parents and how they met, and how Mr. Benito has come to, you know, come to this planet. And I have to say, this song was my favorite salsa between the two. I do love Baile InoLVIDABLE, but this one was my favorite. I thought this was so fun and energetic, and it was, I don't know what this means, but it was that. And I think for an outro, especially kind of coming off, you know, the story, but also this direct love story to Puerto Rico, and I think it did a great job. When it comes to the story and the intent of the song, especially as a closer, I put it an 18 out of 20. Once again, we've completely abandoned the story, probably by by Lo Que Le Pasó a Hawaii, and that love story has ended. But this one, it shows roots. It shows roots to who he is, what his love of his family and his culture is, and it wraps it up beautifully. You know, when it comes down to the danceability and the energy, it is so high energy, it is so fun, it is so mysterious in a way, and it's great. It's great. This makes me want to want the salsa harder than ever. When it comes to the artist's delivery and identity, this album has shown, you know, the range that he can achieve in comparison to his past. And even though he's done stuff like merengue, although he's done stuff like rancheros or corridos in the past, but this in itself, it's definitely one of his stronger deliveries in terms of that kind of forward, like I'm treading this genre. And then when it comes to the uniqueness, it is very unique. It may not be the best salsa out there, but I think it's a great salsa for the ending of this album. In comparison, if you were to switch it with Baile InoLVIDABLE, that wouldn't have worked as well, but I do enjoy this one. When it comes to the broader impact and resonance, this is a closer, and it does a beautiful job to make sure to really capture what that album is. And I think over time, and I think the best way to wrap this up is from the story of him, you know, and his family in the beginning, into having those artists and him being like, yo soy de fe fucking er, that's all like that throwback to fe fucking er and yo hago lo que me dé la gana. And I think that just kind of comes to show that he has been on this shit for a while, and I'm so proud. Now, lastly, just to wrap up what this album is about and how I have just marked and scored it. So once again, we have these 5 categories, and I'll try to keep it as short as I can. So for concept and flow, does this album take listeners on a journey with a clear concept or narrative? Yes, it does. I gave it a 25 out of 25. It's very obvious if you understand it. If you don't understand it, maybe just do some research on it. That's totally fine. But there is a journey in the sense of what he is wanting to express to his audiences and to those around them. And even with that sonic journey, it shows you kind of cultural relevancies to what music is there. And I think he does an excellent job about it too. Now, when it comes to song highlights and consistency, how strong are the standout tracks, and is the album consistent overall? I marked this as a 28 out of 30. So like a couple marks off, because I will say it's fairly consistent in comparison to some of the albums he's had in the past. Now, if he added a trap song onto here, I think it would have diminished it, but this was very much one of those albums that was very direct to that experience. Okay, so when it comes to artist visions and innovation, does this album push boundaries or showcase the artist's evolution? It absolutely does. This is a 17 out of 20. This is very different from any of Bad Bunny's other albums. I remember when Un Verano Sin Ti, a lot of people were this is the fun part about what Bad Bunny does. He's always been pushing boundaries in different ways. When he started off, it was a lot of trap, but at the same time, for Por Siempre, there were tracks that had a lot of rock on it, and he did add that into a lot of his albums, or he was playing with sounds a little bit more than usual. Yo hago lo que me dé la gana did something very similarly, where a lot of people were expecting trap music, but he went in a completely different direction, where he started kind of starting up a little bit more of that reggaeton sound. Not to say that he didn't do it in the past, he definitely did, but to dedicate a lot to that kind of sound was more evident. El Último Toro del Mundo was one of his most experimental albums, and I don't think it gets enough credit, but a lot more rock bases. And Un Verano Sin Ti, you know, that was like very beach housey vibes. And then, yeah, you had all your trap music and that kind of 2016, 2010 kind of flow with Nadie Sabe Lo Que Va a Pasar Mañana. But this album, I think this was so left field for people that they weren't necessarily expecting that much innovation, in the sense of him trying to push outside of his discography and styling. And I think he did a great job. 17 out of 20. When it comes to audience connection and replay value, I've had many conversations with people about this. And originally, when people first listened to it, they said, I don't think this is his best album. I don't think this is his best work. And that was like, okay, that's fine. But I think this album does. If you step away and you look at everything that he has done as an artist, you can say this is way more different than what others would be expecting. But there's so many songs in there that will resonate. I know a lot of friends who love CLúB, Voy a Llevarte pa PR. Some of my girlfriends, we really love BOKeTE and TURiSTA, or CAFé Con Ron. Like, these are songs, even for generations, as Bad Bunny and other people have mentioned, that he has made sure that this is something many generations can love and experience and listen to on repeat. And I do believe it does have replay value. Even for myself, I have to listen to this album. It feels good listening to this album. It is a feel-good album, and there is something that does connect a lot of people to it. So that's like around a 14 out of 15. And when it comes to evolving appeal and listener evolution, once again, there is this original kind of thought with a lot of people where others were unimpressed. I talked to quite a few people where they said, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know if I like it. Even for myself, I remember sitting there and questioning, do I really like this? I had to ask myself, do I enjoy this album because it's Bad Bunny, or do I enjoy this album because I'm enjoying this album? And I think that was a fair question because, in a way, yeah, Bad Bunny can release anything and people will eat it up. I do too at times. But I think objectively and critically, this has to be one of his best works in his discography. And I think I've grown a greater appreciation for what this album has delivered because it's intentional, it's purposeful, even with the choices of features that he has on this album. They are not very famous features like how he has Jaco or Rao, or he could have thrown anyone on here. Like if with this he could have thrown Daddy Yankee or Don Omar, or like actually have we seen or Yandel on one of these tracks, but he didn't. He himself is probably the biggest artist on that album that whole way through, and without the references and everything else, and I think that really comes to show that the talent that him and his team has used to put this album together, it is incredibly thoughtful. Also, I have to say that's like a 94 out of 100 in terms of a score, so 9.4 out of 10, if I may. And I love Tiny. And I think this is just like a little bit of a personal note, because looking at the producers for each one of these songs, I have to give it to La Paciencia, because he has like 15 out of 17 tracks that he's helped produce, and he's done a great job. I know Tiny does an amazing job throughout his career, and he will always give you the best bangers, and he does have some of those tracks that are my tops. But I have to say, La Paciencia and Mag, those guys went so hard too, especially as kind of those main producers with a lot of these projects as well. And I think that should really be something to note, because anytime Bad Bunny has worked with La Paciencia, it's always going to be a worthwhile listen. And yeah, so kind of adding those two scores and kind of averaging them out, I would rate this album a 9.4 out of 10. Would I say this is his best album? Maybe. I've been really thinking about it. Is this Bad Bunny's best album? I think this is his most intentional album. I think it's one of his more wholesome albums in the sense of the heart that it gives. But his best arguably can be within those top 3, top 4 spots. I'm really excited to see what else kind of goes out with this album, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this review. I know that we were a little scattered here and there, but there is so many words, but never enough words to express how great of a job he did with this. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you do have any favorites that you want to comment, feel free. If you do want to share your thoughts about this album, please do so. Keep it happy, keep it healthy, keep it chill. And yeah, if you ever want to check us out for new music updates, please follow us at Ritmo Ron on Instagram, on Twitter, or on Facebook. We're also at ritmoron.wixsite at the moment.com. We'll have all of our stuff in this space. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you at the next one.
I don't care.